This program is brought to you by cable franchise fees and generous donations from viewers like you.
Welcome to the Amherst Weekly Report from Amherst Media. I'm Asia Reed.
And I'm Abby Gracie. UMass Amherst has received its first all-electric PVTA bus. It will start its service today and will be charged with the newly installed 150 kilowatt charger located in the UMass Transit Garage. Its range is 230 miles in perfect weather conditions, and it will replace one of 4 buses that are expected to be given to UMass Public Transit. Each bus currently has a 12-year replacement schedule. The original buses run on diesel fuel, so the administrator of the PVTA, Sandra Sheehan, is excited to cut down on the public transit's carbon footprint. There are 15 all-electric PVTA buses operating around the Pioneer Valley, with each one costing just under $1 million. They have been bought by federal funding given to the PVTA and by a court settlement with Volkswagen. 2 more all-electric buses are expected to be given to the university next year.
A swastika and racial slur were written on a desk outside of Amherst Regional High School. As a result of the incident, which took place in early November, the high school asked school officials to prompt students and teachers with ways to improve equity and diversity. The following week, staff members led advisory groups for the students, where discussions regarding the incident and its impact on the school and community took place. While in the groups, students also contributed to their own input on the situation. Superintendent Michael Morris said there was a similar incident that took place at the school last December. Both anti-Semitic and racist words were written in chalk on a school building. In response to this, the school committed to an anti-racist educational program for all members of the school. Police have not yet been able to identify the subject for both incidents.
Boston-based company Danisco Design will be designing the new Amherst Elementary School following the expected demolition of the Wildwood and Fort River Elementary Schools. They were selected last week by the Massachusetts School Building Authority Designer Selection Board, along with town and school officials and Answer Advisory, the owner's project manager. Both the original Fort River and Wildwood Elementary plots are being considered for the future buildings for the school building. The building is expected to provide daylight zones to ensure the sunlight is used to help promote education, along with net zero energy principles. The project is projected to begin on August 1st, 2024, and the goal is to have it finished by the fall of 2026.
Students at UMass Amherst received a letter regarding the preparation for the spring 2022 semester. The email was sent by Chancellor Kumbal Subbaswamy and went into detail on the protocols that must be taken as a result of the continued presence of COVID-19. The email said, quote, "In accordance with the existing requirement that students be fully immunized against COVID-19, all students will be required to receive a COVID-19 booster shot. Indoor masks will still be required for the rest of the school year. Wastewater testing, adaptive testing, and volunteer testing will all still be in place. Students will also be expected to be tested 2 weeks before the start of spring classes through advanced testing. There are 3 options for the testing, which include mail-in tests, testing in person, and testing at a Stop the Spread location. Any individual in Massachusetts can test for free at the locations and will have the results emailed to testing@umass.edu. If students do not take a test, they will be expected to test at the Public Health Promotion Center immediately when they arrive on campus. If tested positive, students will be sent home for a 10-day isolation period, as required by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health."
UMass Amherst announced Monday that Don Brown will be the head coach of the football program following the firing of Walt Bell. Brown was already head coach between 2004 and 2008, where the program had its highest winning streak in its history. Brown is currently working his first season at the University of Arizona as defensive coordinator, making $1.7 million. $700,000 of that salary is being paid for by Brown's previous employer, the University of Michigan. Brown was also previously defensive coordinator at Maryland, UConn, Boston College, and Michigan. He grew up in Massachusetts and is excited to return to his family, who still lives in the state.
UMass Amherst may be increasing its tuition for both in-state and out-of-state students. Vice Chancellor of Administration and Finance, Andrew Mangels, discussed in a letter to the campus community that fall 2022 may bring a 2.5% increase in tuition for in-state students, a 3% increase for out-of-state students, and a 3% increase in dining and housing fees. Tuition and fees for in-state residents are currently $15,791 for the full semester, while out-of-staters pay $35,779. The potential adjustments will be in response to the anticipated budget shortfalls, a product of the pandemic and an overall reduced enrollment, as 500 fewer students enrolled than expected this year. While the decision will not be known for a couple of months, the Board of Trustees will likely set the tuition and fees rate for the fall 22 semester sometime in the spring.
Downtown Amherst will be adding a fun spot to its nightlife scene this month. Hazel's Blue Lagoon, a Caribbean-American restaurant and nightclub, will be opening at 39 and 41 Boltwood Walk, with plans of a fine dining restaurant on one side and a nightclub portion on the other. The location used to house the nightclub Lit Amherst, as well as Fire and Water Yoga Studio. Jamaican immigrant and restaurateur Junior Williams spearheaded the project, naming the restaurant in honor of his late mother, Hazel Smith, in Jamaica's popular Blue Lagoon. He opened his first restaurant, Hazel's Kitchen, in Chicopee in 2017, and a second one called Courtyard Cafe shortly after. Now he plans to bring a taste of the Caribbean to Amherst. Live music, galas, and fashion shows are just some of the events he says the restaurant will host, in addition to culturally themed events that will foster inclusivity for people of all backgrounds. While a set opening date is yet to be announced, a Christmas party and a New Year's Eve party are already planned for December 18th and 31st.
With the recent celebration of Thanksgiving, many families and friends were able to come together to share stories and an abundance of food. But for many other families and individuals, food insecurity is a reality year-round. To bring public awareness to the issue of hunger throughout the 4 counties in western Massachusetts, each November, WRSI 93.9, the River's Monte Belmonte, leads community supporters while pushing an empty shopping cart as they raise funds to help provide healthy meals for their neighbors at risk. AWR sent a crew to the Amherst Survival Center to meet the marchers on November 23rd, where they had a chance to catch up with Monte Belmonte.
I'm Lev Ben Ezra. I'm honored to be the executive director here at the Amherst Survival Center, and we're really looking forward in just a few minutes to welcoming Monte Belmonte and all of his marchers who are participating in Monte's March to raise money for the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts.
This is year number 12. It started out with a modest goal of trying to raise $5,000 and just me pushing an empty shopping cart. And it has grown now in this dozen years to what you see here. And there was 2 giant school groups that were with us as we were walking out of downtown Amherst. There are school groups doing solidarity marches all over the valley. There are individuals virtually marching from home or doing something with their small community. And last year, given the dire circumstances of the pandemic with food insecurity, we were able to raise over $600,000. Now, with some of those government supports ending, we don't really know what to expect, but we have high hopes. We're trying to raise $500,000. We've already gone over $100,000. There's a lot of independent marching teams here whose monies we haven't added and stuff like that. But the real goal, I could end it, as I was saying to you off the air, if we stopped right here, I think we've achieved a remarkable thing where there are kids learning about food insecurity, there are kids learning about helping their neighbors, there are legislators that are seeing that this is an important issue. And from the grassroots, we're helping to make sure that people at the Amherst Survival Center can eat every day. And from Beacon Hill and Washington, D.C., we're making sure that we change the system.
Marching with Monte was State Representative Paul Mark of the 2nd Berkshire District, who shared his reasons for joining in the public display to heighten awareness of hunger throughout the region.
I walk because it's important to realize that hunger is a real issue throughout the 4 western counties, and unfortunately it's an issue I dealt with when I was a kid, and it's a hidden issue because people that are going through a tough patch, or even when the tough patch is going on for a longer amount of time, it's not something you broadcast. It's something that there's still a stigma around. It's something you try to hide, and you don't even let sometimes friends and family know. And so coming here and making sure that the food bank is able to raise enough money, is able to get donations, especially now in this holiday season, in a season where, especially with COVID, I think some people maybe that have had work aren't going to have work moving forward. I think it's really important. And so this is the 3rd year I've done it, 2nd year walking, and I think, again, it raises awareness, but it also raises actual dollars. And I know there's a lot of contributors. Like, my team's probably going to get $2,000, which is a drop in the bucket, but it matters. It all adds up. And so it's a great event. Monty does a really great job doing it. So many people turn out, and luckily we had good weather, so that helps too. I'm running for the Senate in the Berkshire, Hamden, Franklin, and Hampshire district. So it's 57 cities and towns throughout Western Mass. Basically, take I-91 and just cut off the western part of the state. It's everything out there. It's an exciting opportunity. It's an opportunity to become. I've been a state rep now for 10 years, and to become a voice of 1 out of 40, and hopefully always chair a committee and be that much more outspoken for the region. And at the same time, I've had traditionally Berkshire, Franklin, and some of Hampshire County. To pick up Hamden and to expand that reach, I think is good. It's been exciting so far. It's a lot of driving, a lot of reaching out to people, but I'm so far it's growing really well. So thanks for asking.
Among those willing to use their feet to raise money and awareness was Andrew Morehouse, the executive director of the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts. Andrew has served in this capacity since 2005, while devoting his whole professional career to the nonprofit sector, and specifically to social and economic justice issues.
Well, as hopefully most people know, the food bank is the clearinghouse for the distribution of emergency food throughout all 4 counties of Western Massachusetts. We receive large quantities of food from lots of different sources, including about half from the local food industry, supermarkets, wholesalers, and our local farms. And we receive it in our warehouse in Hatfield, and then we distribute it to 173 independent local food pantries and meal sites like the Amherst Survival Center, where we are today. Amherst Survival Center is one of the largest local food pantries that receive food from us and gets it out to people in need of food assistance. So we're grateful for that partnership, and in so doing, we're able to make sure that people have access to healthy, nutritious food when they need it most.
Hosting the temporary respite from the marchers was Lev Ben Ezra, Executive Director of the Amherst Survival Center, who helped us to understand increasing needs of the community residents they serve daily.
Overall, the Amherst Survival Center has roughly doubled the amount of food that we've provided since COVID-19. And that plays out a little bit differently across our programs. So our meals program has roughly tripled. And then we've almost doubled the amount of food that's provided to families through the food pantry. That was just really the thing that we both saw an increase of new people coming, but also we were just hearing repeatedly from families that they needed more food. And so really thanks so much to the generosity of the community and incredible partners like the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts have been able to respond and scale our programs to help families make ends meet and meet that need. Most of what we do at the Amherst Survival Center is open to anybody from anywhere. We welcome folks to come, and it's very important to us that we try to have the barrier, the hurdle that someone has to overcome to come here be as low as possible, as easy as possible. So anyone from anywhere can come every day to be able to access our lunch or daily fresh produce or bread. There's no registration required. For our food pantry, we do have a very brief registration form that people complete once and then are able to come ongoing and get food. So the food pantry is limited to 13 towns, but definitely includes a wide number of towns outside of Amherst, as well as our other programs that we have available to anyone in the area. So really want to make these resources available to all of our neighbors for whom they can be supportive. It has been sort of interesting because we've really been mourning the shrinking of our volunteer program in COVID. But the number that has shrunk to is that we now have about 150 volunteers on site every week, compared to the 250 to 275 volunteers a week that we had before COVID. So it has been amazing since vaccinations have widely been available and just case numbers have been lower, to just welcome so many of our longstanding volunteers back into the fold. And I can't say enough thanks to everyone who has participated throughout this time. It's only been because of this really large-scale community effort that we've been able to get well over 1 million meals to roughly 7,000 people over the last year. We really recognize that we're providing this immediate support to people to help make sure we know that access to healthy food is a basic human right and that every single one of our community members should have access to the food that they need. And so we're really working to help address that on an immediate level while also being a part of advocacy with our legislators and broader systems change, because we know that to actually end hunger, what we need is the political will and the motivation to put in place effective policies, things like affordable childcare, access to affordable housing, living wages, all of these things that are going to enable our communities to really thrive and to not only ensure food security, but really to ensure quality of life for our area residents. So it is possible. We know how to do it. It's a matter of the political will and the resources to make sure that all of our community members have the resources that they need.
Congressman James McGovern, a lifelong advocate for the elimination of hunger in America, offered the following comments.
You know, it's meaningful to me, and it's a way to do something real for people in this community. At the end of this march, thanks to Monty and Andrew and others who have been part of this, we'll have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars that will go directly to help people in this community. And you know, I fight for changing programs and increasing funding for programs to help alleviate hunger in Washington, but the need is right now, so people can't wait. And so I do this because it's at the end of it all, as painful as it is, we've accomplished something concrete and real. I'm really inspired by the people of this community who do this. I mean, they could be doing other things, and they're walking 43 miles to help their fellow citizens in this community. We've been asking President Biden to do a White House conference on food, nutrition, health, and hunger. You know, the last time the White House did a conference like this was 52 years ago. And out of that conference came the WIC program, the Women's, Infants, and Children's Program. It updated then we called it the food stamp program, and focused more on child nutrition. So I've been talking to President Biden. I've had a couple of conversations with him directly about it, all of his cabinet officials, and I think we're going to get to yes. My hope is in the next few weeks he'll give us an affirmative answer. But the whole point of this is we need to think holistically, and ending hunger is not just about increasing SNAP. It's about housing. It's about decent wages. It's about our healthcare system being better connected to nutrition. It's about our schools being more responsive to teaching kids about food and agriculture. So, you know, I think something really big can happen out of this. But we're not almost there, but he hasn't said yes yet. But he will. I'm confident.
This year, Monty's March raised to date for the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts $529,076.95. If you haven't yet contributed, please consider going to foodbankwmass.org/donate. Feeding those in need shouldn't be an issue only around the holidays. We encourage you to assist in any way you can those organizations and individuals who attempt to alleviate hunger and security for all. Now here's Tyler Braldy with this week's sports report.
Thanks, Asia. The search for a new head coach has officially ended for UMass football, as Arizona defensive coordinator Don Brown has been rehired for the position, marking his first return to the team since his departure in 2008. As the Minutemen's season came to a close over the past weeks with 2 blowout losses against the Army and New Mexico State, this opportunity for change is especially exciting, as hopefully this former A-10 Coach of the Year can rekindle some of the fire he caught during his initial tenure and reform the tattered image that remains of UMass football. With basketball season officially underway, the Amherst College Mammoths have been seemingly unstoppable, with both their men's and women's teams currently standing undefeated at 6-0. The men's team has averaged a 34-point margin of victory, with their 2 most recent matchups against Westfield State and Thomas College being their most tightly contested games thus far, but these games still ending 89-59 and 79-54 respectively. The Mammoths will next enter a road stretch against St. Elizabeth University and Springfield College on Saturday, December 4th and Tuesday, December 8th at 3 and 7:30 p.m. The women's team has seen the same level of success, albeit with much tighter scoreboards, as the undefeated squad took down Bates College 60-54 and Emmanuel College 56-48 in their recent matchups, with forward Jade Duvall tying the school's rebound record with 21 boards in the Emmanuel game. The team will go on to play Wesleyan University on the road tonight at 7 p.m. UMass men's basketball has been far more of a mixed bag so far, holding on to a 5-3 record after a couple of losses in the Jersey Mike's Classic. Following the tournament, the Minutemen managed to win back-to-back games, winning the Battle of the UMasses against UMass Lowell and dispatching Rutgers 85-83. While the Lowell game wasn't especially competitive, seeing 6 Minutemen score in double digits, the Rutgers game was a momentous comeback, as UMass only took the lead for the first time in the final 17 seconds via a pair of clutch free throws and a buzzer-beating 3-ball from Noah Fernandez. UMass will hope to capitalize on this going forward as they play Harvard tomorrow at 12 p.m. in the Mullen Center and Northeastern on the road next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Women's basketball, on the other hand, have established themselves as one of the teams to beat in the A-10 Conference, standing tall at 8-1. Their lone loss of the season took place against Iowa State in the Gulf Coast Showcase, but they rebounded with a 74-61 victory over Fairfield, led by Sam Breen, who dropped 22 points and 16 rebounds in her 6th double-double of the season. Breen has been one of many standout performers for the Minutewomen, and she'll be needed at her best on Sunday against UMass Lowell at 12 p.m. While UMass hockey's record would indicate that they're having a bit of a down year, skating in at 7-4-1, a lot of these woes can be attributed to a plethora of injuries. The Minutemen are currently down 6 forwards, with some of these injured players likely still having to suit up for their next game, despite not being rink ready, just so that the team has enough active players to compete. Their most recent game saw them split a weekend series with UNH, winning 3-0 and then losing 2-1 in overtime. But much of the attention has to be placed on the future rather than the past, with uncertainty surrounding the team's ability to play. Most of the games UMass have played within the Hockey East have been low-scoring defensive affairs, and the team will hope to keep things that way while they rest up and prepare for the remainder of the season. The Minutemen will persevere with UMass Lowell on the horizon tonight at 7 p.m. on the road and tomorrow at 7:30 in the Mullen Center. Back to you, Asia.
Thanks, Tyler, and thank you for tuning in to the Amherst Weekly Report. I'm Asia Reed.
And I'm Abby Gracie. We'll see you at the same time next week.